Wow.
Okay.
Okay. It's
Okay. Okay. Now, I'm sorry about that delay. I lost the link when I went back to get the information to type into the live. But anyway, um, this is a history of book marketing, and this is the Community Library of Mississippi goes virtual. We're recording this live on Zoom, and also this is live on Facebook from our Facebook page, Community Library of Mississippi. And Community Library of Mississippi goes virtual started in July with a 3-week reading fair, and then we had 7 speakers, and today is our last speaker from the virtual history speaking series, Mary Harding. She's a bookseller in Greenville, Mississippi, and I am very interested in what she has to say because this is a topic that I am very interested in learning more about. And without further ado, I would like to present to you our speaker today, Mary Harding. Thank you for coming.
well, thank you. I hope you will learn something. I did as I did my research. So I want to say good evening and thank you for tuning in, watching, and participating in today's Zoom presentation of the history of book marketing. And I hope you will learn something. I'll probably ramble a little bit, but by the end, I hope you'll get it. So I want to say again that my name is Mary Harding. I'm a native of McGee, Mississippi. It's in Simpson County. However, I've been a resident of Greenville, Mississippi, and Washington County for more than 30 years. I'm a semi-retired educator, and I've taught for more than 35 years. But I want to share with you, when I learned about the Delta, my dad would come to the Delta to pick cotton, and he would stay about a week and come back home. So that's all I knew. So when I attended Jackson State, I met this guy from the Delta that I later married. And I didn't have to, but I went to visit his mother during, I think it was a Mother's Day. I didn't go see my mother. I went to see his mother during Christmas, during Mother's Day. So we rode the bus from Jackson, the old Greyhound bus, and we got to Yazoo City. And after Yazoo City, it was flat all the way. And I said to myself, what have I gotten myself into? So, we married and moved to the Delta. And of course, I've been in the Delta ever since. Moved away, moved to New York City, and then moved back to the Delta. So, and I've been here ever since. So, first, I want to acknowledge the sponsors of the Zoom presentation, and they are the Community Library of Mississippi and, if I have this correct, the Mississippi Humanities Council for their assistance in funding this presentation and for their moral support. I will forever be grateful for this opportunity to share this valuable information. However, I don't know how I committed to this, but I did. So my topic today is history of book marketing, and I'll present the information in 2 parts, a then and a now. So beginning with the then, the art of printing, publishing, and book marketing are closely related. You can't do one successfully without doing the other. And you have to be thinking it all of the time. You know how we go to bed thinking about something and we get up thinking about it. So that's what you have to do with publishing and book marketing, especially if you have that information that you want to get out for the public to see. So I took a portion of this information from an old encyclopedia, which no one uses anymore. I was sitting in my classroom and I thought, well, I need to read this from the encyclopedia because that was the time that was all that we had. So it indicates that printing is one of our most important means of mass communication, along with the radio, the television, and motion pictures. Printing forms the basics of our whole educational system. Printing must have been has to be a profound marketing component because modern businesses depend on printing for everything because they have that marketing component. Advertising, marketing depends on printing to sell goods and services. So no matter what you have to sell, whether it's books or ice cream, I mean, you have to get out there and market it and find out, you know, how to say it and how to get it to the people, how to get them listening, seeing that product. To produce books to sell, books must be printed and marketed to the public. And you can't say that too many times because that's who you want to read your books. And marketing comes in various forms. Mail order, door to door, trunk of a car, just conversation, television, radio, bumper stickers, billboards, school book fairs. And I want to share with how we started with the bookstore, the book gallery. As a book club, we were reading books, you know, meeting every second Sunday, reading books. And when we started the book club, my daughter was a senior at T.L. Weston High School. And I was the PTA president, and, you know, we were always doing something at the school. So she said, Mama, you all are reading, and she hated reading. Why don't you come down to T.L. Weston and do a book fair for the students? And we did. We loaded up our books, went down to T.L. Weston to do the book fair. Kids were excited. Teachers were excited. So we came back and said, we need to start a bookstore. So we started our bookstore in 1995. So I don't know how many years that is, but we have had the book gallery since the presentation of that book fair at T.L. Weston High School in Greenville, Mississippi. And at that point, my daughter started reading. She had a teacher, Miss Scott. She said Miss Scott had been trying to get them to read. She would not read, but Miss Scott presented the book in a different way. She would ask them to read the book, and then they would go to the library and present that book to the rest to their classmates. So she started reading. So that's how we started the opening of the bookstore, the book gallery, which is located on Filbert Street in Greenville, and it's been there on that corner since 1995. We were on one little part of the corner, and then we moved around to the front of the corner. So we're there. So if you're ever in Greenville, come by and visit the book gallery. So printing and publishing is a big business. The industry is the 8th largest in the United States and the 9th largest in Canada. Printing as we know it today began about 500 years ago. Before that time, everything people read had to be copied by hand or printed from wood blocks carved by hand. At that time, priests had to handwrite and copy Bibles. And don't you think that was time consuming?
Yes.
To hand print and to copy. And then there was the monks in the monasteries, the scriptorium, and scribes, when all printing was done by hand and by only males. Women didn't have, and you know we had better handwriting, but all of that printing was done by males. So we've been discriminated against a long time. So literacy was born. And nowadays we use I missed something. I want to go back. Let me share this before I tell you about literacy. All right, so after that, the scriptorium and the printing was done by hand and by only male. Then one of the greatest events in history took place. About 1440, Johannes Gutenberg of Germany invented printing with movable type. Gutenberg made separate pieces of metal type for each letter to be printed. Printing soon became the first means of mass communication. Printing put a variety of books in the hands of more people, which was a powerful weapon for society against the worst enemy, ignorance. So at that time, literacy was born. So nowadays, we have printers which were developed from the 1452 printing press. The printing press has evolved from 1452 up to 2020. So and now in 1990, the regular black and white, the regular black and white printer. Then we evolved up to the color printer. And then in 2002, the full color printer. And now in 2010 came the modern, I can do anything printer. So we've come from the having to print everything by hand up to Gutenberg and the printer, up to where we are now with a printer and printing and publishing. So in regards to the literacy part, I want to share a personal story. So as the printing evolved and we evolved to be able to have better technology to do what we need to do in a faster way. But before I go further, I want to share this personal story. As a little girl, I learned to read very, very early. My mother, I'm the eldest of 9. So, and my mother didn't work until my youngest sister was about 5 years old. But growing up, we had lots of reading materials that some of it was kept away from us. And some of it was readily there. We just had to find it. So My grandfather had an old barn house, and that barn house was full of books and an old organ. So we would go out to that house and pluck that organ and tumble through those books. Well, I was reading, and I don't think my mother knew I was reading, but she'd been working with me. So in tumbling through those books, I came across a book on development, physical development. And I read that book, and I reread that book because it was interesting. So after I had read that book and reread that book, I decided, well, I'd come out and I'd share what I'd been reading. Well, I started sharing and shared with my mother and shared with my sisters and brothers. By the time I got through sharing, my mother was terribly upset with me. I had learned some very important information about conception, female development, babies being born, and how they were born and how they were conceived. I knew all that stuff. Shared it with my mama, and I think I was disciplined. But of course, that didn't stop me from reading and writing and thinking about probably how I could publish that book one day. So even today, I continue to read and write. I have published 2 books. One, Uncle Hubbard and the Burlap Sack, and the second one, Snippets of Truth, which is a compilation of childhood stories. And as I said earlier, I co-own a bookstore in Greenville, Mississippi. Marketing my books has taken several avenues. Some through Amazon.com, and just by conversation, book signings, presentations at family reunions, the trunk of my car, book fairs, and of course, virtual book sales, Facebook Live, some television, radio talk shows, Read Across America. And as you know, Read Across America highlights Dr. Seuss's birthday in March. And my husband, in marketing and publishing and marketing that book, with the marketing part, my husband has read Uncle Hubbard and the Burlap Sack to numerous of children during Read Across America month, Dr. Seuss and Read Across America in March. So in marketing your books and book marketing, it is something that you have to be, it has to be on your top list at all times. You just can't, at least you shouldn't just say, I'm going to write a book. You should, before writing that book, you need to have a plan. The title is very, very important. The book jacket is very important in marketing your book. So I guess it goes back to being a creative book marketer. It's almost a must to sell books and to get them into the hands of the public. You must have a strategic plan, and that plan must be in writing. So you'll have an outline to refer to. Or if you want to go back and add something to what you've written in your plan, you can do that. The following is a suggested plan. Review your mission. Meaning, why did you write the book? Have a market plan tailored to your book and your goals. Select sales and distribution channels. Set the price, the payment of your book, your discount policies. Describe the book. But definitely have a way that you can take in sales. And a good example of this, I was in the bookstore, where I had planned to go to the bookstore on Saturday, but I hadn't made it. So one of my friends called because they tried to open another bookstore in the area. So one of my friends says, there's someone here at this bookstore. It's not open yet. Didn't I hear you say that you have a bookstore? And I said, yeah. She said, there's someone here and I'm going to send that person to you. So I said, well, I'll be there in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, I was there. So that person coming to the bookstore was from word of mouth that I had talked to her about the bookstore. So when he got there, he wanted to know, do you take cash? And I said, well, yeah. I said, but I have another form. I said, but I haven't used that in a while. He said, well, do you take Cash App? Well, I did. I had my Cash App right there. He purchased the books, paid for Cash App, and that was it. So have a concrete way of having available so that the person can pay for the goods at that time. So it's good I had Cash App. So you want to study your competitors, define your target audience, write an engaging bio of yourself, set your budget, determine your book promotion tactics, develop a timeline, and so often measure your success. So you have these books, you want to get them out. And I think I'll mention this somewhere down the line, that in writing your book, it's good to write a series of those books. I think Meredith has done series. So you do that series, they really think you are really serious about what you're doing. And if the public understands that you, or know that you are, or think that you are serious about what you're doing, they will patronize you. So, and that's the ultimate goal. You want to get your books in the hands of the public. You want people to know you are serious about what you do. Okay. So book marketing has definitely evolved. And again, I must emphasize that the authors have to get involved if you want to be successful. You can't have that book on the shelf and never push it. You can't have that book on the shelf and never talk about it. It's good to have friends that will help you market your way. And I have a story about that. My family purchased our first set of encyclopedias from a door-to-door salesman. And we still have that set of encyclopedias at my mama's house. I think they've been kind of pushed in a corner somewhere, but they're still there. Marketing also involves, as I've said again, mail order for books such as the Almanac, originally published by Benjamin Franklin. in 1732. The Progressive Farmer, a farmer's magazine. Both of those two books enhanced my reading skills because we always had them. My grandfather had the almanac and that Progressive Farmer, and we read both. About 3 years ago, I had a second grader. They came in one morning and she says, "Miss Hardy, do you have an almanac?" I thought a second grader in these days and time knows about an almanac. But she had one and she was reading it. So I said, well, I have not bought an almanac in years. Let me go buy one. So I went to Walmart and found an almanac. My grandfather would take that almanac and we knew the weather, how the weather was going to be. He knew when to plant his crops. And it was pretty much on it. So all of that. And now with what's going now, we have virtual events. So we've evolved from having to handwrite everything to a printing press of Gutenberg to, I'm just going to say door to door and mail order to virtual events. And that's where we are now. Marketing changed with the arrival of COVID-19 in March, and it has ushered in rapid virtual marketing and caused the cancellation of face-to-face marketing events. For example, in the Delta, we had planned a Delta Book Festival for May. We had to cancel it. And then we set it again for November. We canceled it because we were afraid to get out among the public. So all of that going on, and those cancellations, it has changed the face of book marketing. So I'll stop at this point. I'm not through, but I'll stop. If someone has a question or a comment, I'll take it.
I have a question. Are you familiar with Marshall McLuhan?
Marshall
McLuhan.
McLuhan.
McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan.
No, I'm not.
I was just listening to you and thinking about him, because way back, I think it was around 70, it must have been 72, when I was first in graduate school for the master's in Illinois. But we studied him. He was a person in my field, communication studies. And he predicted many years ago, before I even went to grad school the first time, that the media would run away like we find it now. His whole thing was, the media is the message. The media is the message. So he was talking about things that you have pointed out here in your presentation, beginning with the printing press. He went way back there and talked about the alphabetical system and how it ran away with where he was during his time. And then he predicted what was going to take place through the media, looking at the television and moving on to where we are actually now in virtual learning. He was looking at lots of things and teaching those in the field to watch out that over time, a progression would take place and we would see sophistication as we continue to go through media. Well, at the time when the graduate students and I were in school, we loved to talk about his theory, but of course we couldn't see this day that we now are in. But as I look back at everything and I see how, for instance, the field of mass communications has grown, and I see how pandemic has brought us to Zoom, I do see that he had lots of validity in his message. And today you are sharing, I believe, some of that legacy that he brought forth with his research. And I want to commend you for that, because you took my mind way back to learning that. And I'm just wondering now, after all of the virtual learning, where we might be in media. Just this morning, I was listening to the people talk about, I think they were in Disney World, but they were talking about the movies. And something has happened of late with something that did not go well with movies. And the projection was wondering what was going to happen with the movie theaters away. How would we be watching the movies that we have gone to the movies to see? You see, where would we be? Would we even have an age of cinema? So I think what you are saying is very important. I didn't want to keep going on, but I did want to express that, because I can see future. I don't know what future will bring through media, but I can see a trail of that coming on and moving beyond Zoom, actually.
Right, right. Okay, well, that is true. Media is the message. So I don't think we'll ever go back to the way it was. I think we'll have a combination of a little bit of the then and more of the now and what's to come, because we don't know. But I can recall with Meredith. Meredith was doing something and she said she wanted to do a Zoom. And I thought, now what's a Zoom? I came to the store and I did. I got on Zoom. I don't know what we were doing, Meredith, but I don't think we'll ever do back. I don't think we'll ever go back to just movie theaters. I think we'll have those movie theaters and we'll have it on our watch and our iPhone. So I think we'll have more of a choice of doing. Because I've always said, and my friend tells me now, she said, I brought this on because I couldn't ever understand why we had to do so many away conferences. Why couldn't we have a virtual conference? I told her, I'd say, no, I don't want to go because I don't want to do all that walking. I don't want to do all that traveling. And I don't want to be in a scooter line. So, Dr. Benson, you gotta know what I'm talking about. I said, we should be able to pay that registration, sit at home, and do all of that stuff that we have to go to San Francisco and Alaska to do. We should be able to do it at home. So she looks at me now and she says, you know what? You brought this stuff on. But you know, she said, we have to show off those dresses and those colors. And I said, well, I didn't want to do all that. So thank you. Any other observations?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that when you were preparing this topic, I did a little self-study about it, and I discovered that Goodreads was a very good one commentator that I saw on YouTube talking about it said that every author should have a Goodreads account. Mm-hmm. And I've had a Goodreads account for at least 8 years, but I've never really used it. But she said something that really struck me yesterday. She said that Goodreads has over 85 million readers. And if you are an author, you should be connecting with readers, and that's one of the greatest ways to connect with readers. And my cousin-in-law has been doing book tours for years, but I never thought about doing a virtual book tour until now. So the challenge now is for people to expand their message virtually, where I used to do in-person book tours. I've been to the book gallery 3 or 4 times. I've been to New York, North Carolina, Florida, different places doing book tours. And a virtual book tour is, for instance, if I did a talk on the Delta Book Gallery's Facebook page, if I went to the Jackson Book Festival's Facebook page, if I was interviewed by Dr. Janice Neal Vincent as a part of my tour, just going to different venues online, which I've never really done, but that's something that I would like to do myself, is do a virtual book tour.
Yeah, I read that. I didn't go into that YouTube, but I did get that information about Goodreads. Yeah, so I think then they did some things like they had, they call them reading rooms. You know, that's kind of similar to reading, having the book tours, and they just, you know, refer to them differently. But yeah, that's a good idea. We have to think about the now and what's going on now. And I think that's going to help us to be a little more conscientious about our marketing and getting that information out, because the ultimate goal is to get it into the hands of people. So as you know, the Delta Book Festival partnered with Jackson Holiday Book Festival, which took place on November the 28th on Zoom and Facebook Live. The combined book festival was a success. I think it was successful. Contact was made with people all over the world with book marketing, marketers, artists, poets, clothing designers, publishers, and speakers. So book marketing has greatly evolved over the years. So I have a little timeline of happenings in book marketing that I want to share. So in 1704, the first paid newspaper ad took place. And then in 1835, that was the first billboard ad. In 1836, we had the first paid magazine ad. And in 1905, on May 5th, and this was an interesting something that I came across, that Robert S. Abbott, a lawyer and printer, printed 300 copies of the Chicago Defender in the basement of his landlord. The original copies and more were marketed by railroad porters. The Chicago Defender is 115 years old and it's now digital. But what was interesting to me was how he marketed his newspaper. As people rode the train porters gave out the papers. So that was kind of interesting to me with his marketing strategy, but it worked. So in 1920, we had our first radio ad. 1941, the first TV ad. In 1936, the Negro Motorist Green Book, published by Victor H. Green, was started. And then within the last 5 years, the pace of the changes in book marketing has accelerated due to rapid new advances in technology. So in 1978, we had our first email campaign. We never dreamed of email. In 1991, we had the first web page. In 1993, the first video on the internet. 1994, the first web ad. 1994, the first web blog. 1997, the first social media site. And can you believe there are people today that still won't use a computer? They're not using a computer. They're not using an iPhone. They're not texting. They're not doing any of this. So, and some will not get on a Zoom. So there's still a long ways to go with helping our people get literate today. There are current suggestions for new book marketing strategies. So you can use there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Pinterest, there's LinkedIn. It's a must in this day to have a personal website. And one of the things it says do is write another book. So if you've written a book, you just need to write another one. It's good for your brand, and especially writing a series of books. And when I read that, I thought about Meredith and her series of books. We know she's serious, very serious. And then there's Zoom. You know, set up that Zoom account and designate a time or an account for just your library. You know,
Mayor,
yes.
You had mentioned the recent holiday book festival, which was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and the collaboration that we did virtually. And I agree with you that it was very successful, because when the Delta Book Festival put their program, the Spelling Bee, and the Jackson Book Festival put our program, the Poetry Contest, and then we had the Marketplace virtually. That day, the day after Thanksgiving, we had we had 2,300 people to watch it, and since then people are continuing every day to go to Community Library of Mississippi's Facebook page and watch the festival. But when we were marketing the Community Library of Mississippi, when we marketed the festival, we sent out physical invitations through the snail mail, because we realized that there are readers who do not use Facebook, Instagram. So we still had to try to get the message to them. And so given that fact that you have people like my mother who reads and collects books, who does not know how to use her email, we have to still be traditional while learning all of the modern ways of getting the message out about books. And I think that's a great point. And it just reminded me that collaborating with people virtually, even the book tours, it's about taking the message to different platforms on social media or a website. And that was so interesting that a blog was created the same year that a website, because Meredith Center converted from websites to blogs, because blogs is just like Amazon. When you buy any product from anywhere in the world, you get to make a review of it. And so that's why blogging, to me, is important in terms of marketing, because when someone buys the book, they can leave a blog comment. And
well, and that's kind of where I want to go with Moments with Mary. You know, I want to be able to do Moments with Mary with a book instead of just Moments with Mary with a message about what's going on today. Okay, so I'm at the end where, are there any book market strategies that you'd like to share? Like Vicki, like we are by ourselves. So are there any other book marketing strategies that you... Are there any questions?
I just I would really like to try to do a book tour, and I would like to see if you and Janice we could collaborate to do this in terms of our different medias. Like maybe Janice could interview the authors, because that's her field, journalism, and then we could use the Delta Book Festival to go live on there, and maybe use the Jackson Book Festival and actually put together something that we could learn from your talk here about the history of book marketing then and now. And it has changed, but we would also be able to keep in mind that people still use stamps, and that's for a reason, because people still receive mail in the mailbox.
That's right.
As opposed to in the email box.
That's right. Yeah. So I've had that to happen this year with our Greenville retired educators, our master gardeners. I have different segment of people. So the master gardeners will use, well, they didn't want to use Zoom. So I had to go to conference call. My Greenville Association of Educators didn't want to do Zoom. So I had to go to a conference call. So you just kind of have to adjust to your audience. And we have many audiences. So what's good for one is not good for the other. So we have to kind of mix it up.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So are there any questions?
Yeah, and we're at the last 5 minutes. So I wanted to remind people that for the speaker series, we actually have the Mississippi Humanities Council's evaluation form, and you know we're used to it. You can download it and fill it out, and send it and email it back to communitylibrary.mississippi@gmail.com. And also, I took the liberty of pasting the information into the email, and you could fill it out via email and send and email it back to us. And I just wanted to make that point so that we will remember to complete an evaluation for Mary Hardy. But so with our last part of the presentation, anybody could make a comment or ask a question, because we still have about 5 more minutes.
So are there any questions? So I want to thank you for tuning in to Zoom today. Thanks, family and friends, for watching and listening. Thanks to the Community Library of Mississippi and the Mississippi Humanities Council for your support. As Meredith said, attached is a survey at the end of the presentation that we encourage you to complete and submit. Thank you for attending this presentation, and enjoy your afternoon.
Yes, and thank you for the presentation. I learned a lot, and it's got my mind thinking, which is what you want when you attend anything. You want to learn and grow from it, and that's what this Community Library of Mississippi Goes Virtual is all about. sharing information and invoking thought, and especially spreading intellect. That's number one. Intellect matters. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Intellect and being literate. You know, if you live in Greenville, Mississippi, and you've never been to Jackson, you don't know a thing about Jackson. So you need to be literate in many ways. Just literate, just be really, really literate. If you're not, you're gonna be left behind.
Yes. And so I wanted to remind you that this presentation, if you missed it and you're just joining us live on Facebook, you can go back and see this on Community Library of Mississippi Goes Virtual. We also will have it on YouTube, and all you have to do is type in History of Book Marketing, and you will see it on YouTube. And also, we're going to put it on the Community Library Mississippi's Facebook page. We'll have it on the Jackson Book Festival's page and on the Delta Book Festival, which Mary Hardy is one of the founding members of the Delta Book Festival's Facebook page. So if there are not any other, no, Mary, just give us your final thought on the history of bookmarking before we end.
Well, in doing my research, it was amazed at how far back with the starting of the handwriting of the books, moved on up to the printing press, and from the printing press to the printing of the printers, the first printers that we have today, and just being able to self-publish your own work and to get it out to people.
Yes. All right, from the scribes who wrote things to self-publishing.
Yeah, right.
Power to the bookmarker, to you.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Dr. Vincent, Dr. Jenkins,
okay,
and Meredith. Thank you very much.
All right, you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.